Thank you, Madam, for giving me this opportunity to speak on intolerance. Madam, during the continental drift, the Indian subcontinent separated from Africa, drifted across the Indian Ocean, and came crashing into Asia, forming the mighty Himalayas and the Hindu Kush mountains and the surrounding mountain ranges. These mountain ranges acted as a barrier for entry for millions of years. As people learned to cross these barriers, migration into India began, and India became the first melting pot in the world, Madam. Madam, there are only three pure races in this world. Negroid, which is the people of Africa and the Aboriginals in other parts of the world. Caucasoid, which is the Caucasians, mostly of European stock. And Mongoloid, which is the Oriental people. Indians, Madam, are not a pure race. Okay. If you mix all of these colors of the rainbow, what do you get, Madam? You get brown. And that is what we are, Madam. We are a mixed race of brown people. Throughout the ages, large groups of people have come to India, but no group has ever left India en masse. I have never heard of the term Indian refugees, Madam. People have never had to flee India due to religious persecution in the history of our country. Madam, Hinduism is the oldest religion in the world, with roots tracing back to prehistoric times over 5,000 years ago. It is a fusion or synthesis of various Indian cultures and traditions. Hindu synthesis started to develop between 500 BC and 300 BC after the Vedic period, during which time Buddhism and Jainism were also founded. Judaism first came to India around 500 BC. Christianity came in 50 AD. Islam came in early 7th century. And Sikhism was founded in India in the late 15th century, Madam. India was always prepared to integrate itself with all these religions. There is no doubt that most of the kingdoms, especially the successful ones, gave people the freedom to worship the religion of their choice, whether they were majority or minority. Any kingdom or empire that curtailed this freedom did not last long and has seen its downfall. India has been known for its tolerance for ages. Forgiveness and peaceful coexistence are innate and inbuilt into our culture, tradition, and ethos. Being the most diverse country on earth, we are tolerant to each other's ideas, ideals, and faith, unless and until some religious or political patriarchic groups intervene to design the differences into conflicts. The glaring example of this was when the British ruled India. They used caste, region, and religion to pursue their divide and rule policy. Of course, such nefarious or manufactured designs did succeed at times, but they were momentary and never lasted long. This is the strength and beauty of our country, Madam. Our forefathers, including my own grandfather, who was a freedom fighter and a member of this august house, led by Mahatma Gandhi, realized the weaknesses in the Indian society and how we played into the British hands. They also realized that unless we unite as Indians first, that we cannot succeed. This unity among us has given us the independence after centuries of foreign rule. We have to preserve this at any cost, Madam. We just completed discussing the circumstances under which the Indian Constitution was written, with the backdrop of the bloody partition in which millions of lives were lost due to sectarian violence. The social equality that it enshrines for all, regardless of gender, caste, religion, or region, the ideals of justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity. And for a short time, this worked quite effectively. Yes. Then came the era of vote bank politics. We all know when it was started and by whom it was started. Due to political greed, an attempt to divide this country is once again being pursued, preying on marginalized and weaker sections. Unscrupulous elements are misusing the words like secularism and intolerance to further divide the country, Madam. They are playing caste politics and exploiting minorities to make them into vote banks. This must be stopped, Madam. If not, our political class will be responsible for not only fueling intolerance, but also for the inevitable rise of religious extremism, whether they be Hindu or Muslim. This type of intolerance between Muslims and Jews, between Shias and Sunnis, is what continues to fuel the wars that we see in the Middle East, Madam. The intolerance in Western societies for people of different faiths and from non-Western countries, the games that they play with their bombs and their military superiority to overthrow governments without caring what happens to the people who are left in the vacuum that they leave behind, is fueling both religious extremism and terrorism due to the resentment and hatred that is generated. It's high time for the world to realize that all terrorists are the same. We are the worst affected country in the world due to terrorism, madam. But we are not raising any anti-Islamic rallies, nor are we aware of the word Islamophobia. As our Honorable Home Minister pointed out in his address on the Constitution, Islam has 72 sects, and India is the only country in the world where you have all the 72 sects present, madam. Lately, I've seen that ISIS flags are nowadays shown even in J&K by misguided youth. We are only trying to guide and educate them not to fall into the ISIS trap and not to destroy their career, but we are not persecuting them, madam. Madam, once again, Spain and Portugal at one time were also Muslim countries. Then during the Spanish Inquisition, Muslims were brutally taken out. We don't do that, madam. We've never done that. Rather, we actually celebrate our Mughal dynasty and this period as much a part of our culture and history as any other. And Indian traders also spread Islam into Southeast Asia. That is not all. We've been home for persecuted communities like Judaism, Zoroastrianism, Islam, Tibetan Buddhists, early Christians, and so on. I think these examples give enough indication that India is not only tolerant to other cultures, but also respects, appreciates, and celebrates them. It is the experience of everyone here. When there are two siblings at home, it is quite natural that there exists a bit of contradiction and disunity. In the same way, when different faiths coexist in a single political or geographical arena, there do exist some differences at times. And such contradictions or differences are not new to India, but have existed throughout her medieval and modern periods. But the problem arises only when someone switches on the debate on growing intolerance during a particular period with malicious intentions to achieve some political objectives and then switches off when those particular period is over and the objectives are achieved. This is not acceptable in a country like India, madam. Coming to some of the incidents that have taken place in the last 8 to 10 months, be it the Dadri lynching, or throwing ink on face of people with different ideology, or killing of Kalburgi or Dabolkar, or similar such incidents, our party, the Telugu Desam Party, never subscribes, nor supports, nor justifies such things. And we condemn them in the strongest possible language. But at the same time, I ask you, madam, how can the NDA government at the center be responsible for such incidents? Law and order is a state subject as per the Constitution. If any such incident takes place, the state government concerned is free to take legal action against the culprits. Instead of taking action, how is it justified to blame the union government? If there is a role of the union government, let it be proved before raising a voice against the government of India. So the incompetence of state governments cannot be construed as the failure of the Prime Minister nor the Home Minister, madam. So I only wish that states take strict and stern action against them. Otherwise, there is every possibility that such incidents will be repeated in other states, which is more dangerous to the secular fabric of this country. Madam, I'm reminded of the Austrian British philosopher, Sir Raymond Popper, and his paradox of intolerance, which says, essentially, one who raises his voice against intolerance is being intolerant of rival opinions. Yes. Madam, we do need to be intolerant, but what is it that we need to be intolerant about? Yes. We need to be intolerant about corruption, about exploiting the poor, weak, yes, and marginalized,
now
about
conclude,
forced...
please.
2 minutes, madam.
Yes.
About forced and induced religious conversions, terrorism, sexual harassment and abuse of women and children, prejudice, inequality of opportunities, leaving farmers stranded in a debt trap, police brutality, dowry harassment, caste conflicts, obstructing development, and discrimination by religion, caste, creed, region, color, or language. This is what we need to be intolerant about, madam. I fully support Sri Thambidurai's suggestion that all languages should find a place in Parliament with simultaneous translation, and would also suggest that the same be extended to the broadcast on Lok Sabha TV and Rajya Sabha TV as well. Technology is available for viewers to choose the language of their choice. All citizens should have the right to view and understand the proceedings in Parliament. Why should it be restricted only to people who understand Hindi or English, madam? This is discrimination, madam, which can be easily solved, and there is no reason why it should not be done.
Yes.
In conclusion, I would like to take a moment to reflect and elevate this discussion. Why should tolerance, madam, be our ultimate goal? Why should we only tolerate each other? Is that really our goal, madam? Tolerance is only the lowest common denominator, madam. Rather, we should be striving for acceptance, respect, and love, leading to a society that lives in peace and harmony. Thank you, madam. Jai Hind.
Thank you. The House stands adjourned to meet again at 2:10.